Check, check. Check, check. Sweet. Sounds good. Looks good. We'll get started here in a minute. All right. Welcome to Market Psychology 101, where we look for value in the markets when there's fear and are cautious when there's greed. Happy Friday. Hope you are all doing well. We are 13 days away from Christmas. Hope you and your families are doing well and that you will have a good Christmas season. Maybe get some extra presents from any money you've made this year. We've had overall a good positive year, except for Bitcoin. When you take a look at Bitcoin as far as the returns this year, isn't this crazy? Out of all the years, I keep thinking about this. Out of all the years, this has been the most flat. And imagine just a 0.25% per month upgrade on Bitcoin. So we'll get into it. We'll talk about all things crypto. I think we're getting close to a very important decision in the market soon. Let's just get into it. We have the MACD possibly getting ready to curl up. We have Bitcoin in a possible reversal formation here, though you do see on the daily how it's a little bit stretched. We'll go through some different indicators on that one. But this lines up with what we see on the liquidation heat map. We see Bitcoin stuck in this range between 95K roughly, and we do have a base here, longs versus shorts, 85 versus 95K. This is on bitcoincounterflow.com, by the way. Great site. With Bitcoin getting into the ETF game, the stock market, all the institutional investors, and I'll give credit, by the way, back when the ETFs were being approved, like IBIT and all that stuff, the big buzzword this cycle has been institutionalization. I remember every cycle we get a new buzzword: decentralization, Web3, institutionalization. I do believe there is more and more evidence to say that institutionalization is affecting the crypto market and making things a little bit different than historically. Short-term buyers have been selling their Bitcoin lately, but if you take a look at what the big money is doing, if you look at some of these 13F filings from some of these larger companies, follow what BlackRock, Vanguard, all of them are doing, they are scooping up the Bitcoin that others are leaving behind. So I do believe there's some institutionalization to be shown affecting the market today. So with that being said, more and more I am seeing Bitcoin honor these liquidation heat maps where we have to pay attention to where the shorts and the longs are stacked up. We are seeing that impact the market, and it's also lining up mostly with where some of our Fibonacci retracement levels are at, or where some of the moving averages are at. But make no mistake, as we zoom out, you can see where these shorts are. We did have more shorts stacked in here at 94, took those out. And if we get through 95K, roughly speaking, then it's going to be very positive for the markets. So 95K, that is right about here. It showed 95.5, which is close to where the 50-day moving average is. So if we even see a wick touching the 50-day moving average, we're going to be breaking out of this reversal wedge. And I do think that is a positive for Bitcoin in the near term. So do pay attention to the heat map. I think that has been one of the best indicators. Now, something we've been talking about a lot for the past few months is the flow of money. And right now, Bitcoin, we are at a crossroads. We are at a fork in the road. We have the classic 4-year cyclists that say, hey, there's a top every 4 years. And then we have people who watch monetary policy and flow of money. Now, for a long time, I was more in the 4-year cycle camp, Bitcoin moving in patterns, but we had a divergence this year. Right now, as far as the flow of money and monetary policy is concerned, we are in a more similar type of position as we saw in 2019. Let's go to the weekly time frame here. So 2019, let's get rid of MACD. We'll also get rid of the moving averages and overlay the United States Central Bank balance sheet. This shows the difference between quantitative tightening and quantitative easing. So in 2019, we had this mid-cycle top. Remember, we didn't have institutionalization, as I said before. So Bitcoin was not above the former all-time high, but we had tightening, sort of this mid-cycle run-up. And when we got to easing, eventually, Bitcoin and crypto caught up to it. You can see this reflected even better with Ethereum. If we overlay Ethereum and quantitative easing, we see Ethereum go on more of the path as well, or even ETH Bitcoin. Ethereum's value against Bitcoin. Look at that. That is a nice correlation. And we saw Ethereum's value against Bitcoin. Remember, these are high-risk tech assets. No matter what anyone tells you, these are high-risk tech assets for now. Yes, you can call it digital gold, and I think one day it'll get there, but not right now. It doesn't behave like gold is, and we could see that clearly on the charts, the disparity between gold and Bitcoin. But what we see here is a difference. We see Ethereum's value going up against Bitcoin before we got QE. And so this is one of the essential questions I've had is why? Why are the speculative tech assets running? Why are we risk on? You can take a look at the Russell 2000, for example. Why are we risk on before quantitative tightening ended? You can see even the Russell 2000 making new all-time highs before that. And part of the reason that is that we are in a secular bull run. We are in the AI bubble. I do believe this bubble has further to go. Crypto Squid, welcome. I agree with what you said, buddy. Thanks, buddy. Appreciate you. Thanks for being here. But we are in a secular bull run, an AI bubble. I personally believe that this bubble will be even larger than the dot-com bubble as far as the implications of the tech and where monetary policy is at. We have a shift to looser monetary policy. I like to say inflationary monetary policy, because remember, this is crypto we're talking about. Inflationary monetary policy or looser monetary policy is a net positive effect on Bitcoin because it is a non-inflationary asset. So we are having inflationary monetary policy when we're already near these highs. And I think that is just going to eventually send the market further. Now, I love giving these guys a shout out. I don't know about any of y'all, but I subscribe to a couple different newsletters that show different macro perspectives on the stock market. Because let's face it, if the stock market is still macro bullish, if speculative tech, the Russell 2000, if those are still macro bullish, I believe that is a good tailwind for crypto and Bitcoin, even though we are in a minor bear market right now. And Subu Trade, shout out to them. This is my favorite newsletter. If you have any stock newsletters or crypto newsletters that you really like that show good data, I love Almanac data. And it's just a data point, by the way. Anytime we see this data, all because something's happened before does not mean it's happened again. We have a number of variables to consider. But I do like how Subu Trade does that. They show us a number of different variables. And here, it starts out by talking about the VIX and what happens as the VIX, or how rare it is that the VIX is falling 10 times in a row. So we did have some recent high volatility. Volatility has come down. And I do like that they were talking about the Zweig breadth thrust. We had one of those last year. And that data, by the way, for the Zweig breadth thrust from last year is pointing to more positivity being in the markets for 2026, albeit we are going to probably experience more volatility as well, and some more violent swings, especially with how the last few years have been. But we take a look at this, and this is a smaller sample size as far as what the markets have been doing with some of this data. That would point to some positivity in the markets. Even percent of stocks with the MACD buy signal. I love the MACD. You guys know this. And just line up where some of these prior highs have been. and they have come in at some of those lows. Now, are we at a low right now in the NASDAQ? Not really. We're actually close to all-time high. So that's telling us that this bubble is probably going to get even deeper. So nice article by Subu Trade. Appreciate what they do. Now, my last live stream, probably one of the least liked live streams, and that's okay. I don't do this for likes, by the way. I am a retail crypto stock investor like all you guys, and I do not claim to be the expert or better than any of you. My goal is to have conversations on these live streams and just discuss the pros and the cons of the stock and especially crypto market. But one of my theories have been, or supporting thesis or theories behind the flow of money, believing that it is still very possible that we get in, where's the chart? Here it is, that we still get an alt season, but later in the cycle. It is my belief that the AI cryptos will be the ones to watch. I could be wrong in this belief, but every alt season has had a different set of assets do pretty well. And last alt season, meme coins, Dogecoin, those were the altcoins that did great. But this cycle, since we're in an AI bubble, my thinking is, hey, watch out for the AI cryptos. So last live stream, we talked about some of these where there's some good value, which cryptos I like. We're not going to get too deep in that today. But going back to the point I made about alt season and the 4-year cycles, I'm going to share with you a couple of my arguments against the 4-year cycle. And actually, I do think it's possible. I've been playing with this thought, chewing with it in my mind, getting ready to talk about it in one of these live streams. I believe it's possible the monetary policy people, which is the camp I'm in, for full disclosure, and the 4-year cycle people can both be right. Now, last cycle, 2020 to 2024, we had alt season earlier than expected. Okay, here is a couple of those tops. We had the 2017 top, which was how many days from the halving? 500 some days from the halving. We had the 2021 November top, which was about the same distance from the halving. And believe it or not, even this top, albeit being shorter from the halving, is close to where that 4-year cycle distance is at. So we can see where the halvings are. But as far as the 4-year cycle distance, you see a top there, December 2013. There's a top December 2017. So 4 years later, 3 years, 11 months later, November of 21, 3 years, 11 months later, October of 25. All right. But as far as the cycles go, we had an alt season here in 2017, but the alt season came earlier last cycle. Going back to that chart, we can see it. This is where we had alt season in April, early May of 2021. We can take a look at Bitcoin dominance, and we can see the alt season is reflected by, let's get rid of this background chart here. We can see that's when we had the massive rotation. That's when alts did great. We can even see that reflected in Ethereum. Ethereum's initial pump right here was early 21. Now, we all know why that happened. Now, if you don't know why, the Fed had massive, we were just showing it. Now we got to bring it back on. The Fed was printing massive amounts of money. We had massive QE. That was a tailwind for the speculative tech, Ethereum and all that going up. So again, going back to what I said earlier, being in a similar situation as we were in 2019, we can see Ethereum, Bitcoin bottomed with quantitative tightening and then went up. Now we are already going up. Okay, we are already going up. This is a macro uptrend. And in the past, when we've had alt seasons, it's been when Ethereum's value against Bitcoin is moving from 0.25 to 0.5 in that area. You can see a couple of rejections there, 0.25 to 0.5. This was after some of the QE took place. So back to what I said before about the 4-year cyclists versus the monetary policy people. I believe it's possible that both of us are right, that we had a macro top at that 4-year mark, just like we did now, but that 4-year mark is not where we are getting alt season. I believe there will be tops later in the cycle, and one of those tops would be where we get alt season. Again, uh, during the 4-year cycle top in 2017, this is where we had alt season. Let's go back to Bitcoin dominance and show that. So 2017, this is where we had that 4-year cycle top. We can get rid of QE for good right there. We can overlay Bitcoin. Bitcoin topped here, okay, right with Bitcoin dominance, and then we had the rotation. Remember, alt season happens when Bitcoin is too expensive to keep buying. I truly believe this is worth reiterating. When Bitcoin is too expensive to keep buying, that is when we get the rotation. So let's put a little pin in that and get back to when is Bitcoin too expensive to keep buying. There's actually a really good site. Recommend just bookmarking this one. Go to coinglass.com or Google CoinGlass bull market peak indicators, and you'll see where Bitcoin, or a lot of different perspectives of where Bitcoin is too expensive to keep buying. But anyways, the 4-year cycle lined up with this alt season and rotation. All right, fine, great. Last cycle, however, that did not happen. We can see that the earlier top, of course, we had a double top. The earlier top lined up with where we had the rotation for Bitcoin dominance. The later top did not. This was the 4-year cycle top. So last cycle already proved that the 4-year cycle does not have to line up with alt season. Again, we got a double top, but the lower top, the early top, was when we had rotation. Now, this time around, Bitcoin, it's been chopping up, moving with Bitcoin dominance. And by the way, Bitcoin dominance does move with Bitcoin overall until we get that rotation. Again, watch the flow of money. This is why I'm in the money flow camp, because when we have a divergence from that flow of money from Bitcoin being too expensive to buy, that is when alts do really great. And we have inflationary monetary policy that I believe will be a good boost for Bitcoin and crypto. So I do believe overall, and by the way, Bitcoin dominance is in a bearish trend right now. Just as Bitcoin is bearish, Bitcoin dominance is under the 50-week. Now that can change. It can become bullish again, but we have a number of different indicators showing that the overall trend is to the negative side. It is flipping positive, but if we're getting lower highs, lower lows on the MACD, the RSIs, that's showing us something else. Inversely, when we were getting a positive trend, you see how this trend's moving up. Bitcoin dominance went up with it. Okay, we see the negative trend. Again, we're watching the moving average here, and you can see how it eventually fell off. Right now, we've seen a reversal trend to the negative side. So this is showing me that the strength, the momentum is wanting to pull Bitcoin dominance down. All right. So again, we have not seen this since, if you had to take a look at that, 2019. So it's important, again, to bring up 2019 and where that's at. So again, I believe it's possible both 4-year cyclists and monetary policy people are correct. But instead of an early alt season that coincides with one of the Bitcoin cycle tops, it can be a later top that's further away from the halving. And by the way, when we take a look at last cycle, and I love this site for showing this very clearly. If you're a 4-year cyclist and you say, you know what, the top is every 4 years, there's two pieces of data to say otherwise. One, we have the alt season, which I just went into, being earlier than the 4-year cycle peak. Remember, 2017, the 4-year cycle and alt season, they went together. But last cycle, we had the alt season happen with the earlier peak. And the real peak for last cycle was not here. It was actually in March of 24. We can see that because price was higher in March of 24. So just going over to Bitcoin and taking a look at last cycle. The white lines are the halving, by the way. You can see right there. Let's get rid of the MACD. You can see right here. We had wicks showing that Bitcoin had a cycle top that wasn't at the 4-year cycle. And remember, here's where institutionalization came in. So since the halving, And with comparing this to 2021, what is different for Bitcoin? Okay, what is different for crypto? Remember, Ethereum against Bitcoin, the higher risk crypto assets are doing well before quantitative easing. This was the bottom, and we needed QE last cycle. Not this cycle. We're doing well before. Also, Bitcoin was making newer highs than the prior cycle highs into that monetary policy switch. So last cycle, we didn't get above the former all time highs. This cycle, we did. And again, on the liquidation heat maps, we see how Bitcoin is honoring this. It is running into resistance and support where we have longs and shorts stacked up. So I do believe large money, Wall Street money, is having more of an impact. And when I take a look at Bitcoin macro-wise overall, by the way, I have on moving averages here. This is the 20, 50, 100, 200. Red's 20, orange is 50, light blue 100. This is 200. We see that when Bitcoin is at or under the 100, it's not the worst time to buy. Now, I do promote looking for structure, so you're not just buying a falling knife. Heck, if you even had on a simple indicator, such as a Heikin-Ashi buy signal, and you bought the first time we went under the 100-week moving average, you would have got Bitcoin at 21K. You would still be very happy with the Forex from here, being like, you know what, Bitcoin's dead. First weekly buy signal, boom, you're good. Now, as far as this cycle, we just hit the 100-week moving average. But I'm seeing a lot more support, and I'm seeing indications that it's possible this could be a bottom. If Bitcoin goes here to the 200, again, if it goes under the 100, the first weekly buy signal I see, I am buying Bitcoin for the long term. I'm going to love that value, and I just showed you why that is. All right, that is part of my DCA strategy. So if Bitcoin goes under its 100-week moving average, the first weekly buy signal I get, not telling you what to do, but I will be looking at buying in. But we do see possible indications of this being a bottom for a while. One of those indications is just historically, look at this is an almanac perspective. When Bitcoin has had a very negative November 2018, 2022, these were the bottoms. These were the very bottoms for Bitcoin. Here's November 22. And here's November 2018. All right. So those were the cycle bottoms, but there's other data too. We also had a more negative. This was flipped as far as 2021 goes. And we'll see. It's possible if all of a sudden December is way more negative than November, then maybe we need to have on this perspective. Right. That hasn't happened yet. I hope it doesn't happen, that we don't get a negative 17% and a negative 20, 30%. That would be awful. But we'll see. We got to take the market that's given to us. But 2019, that was another time that we had a negative November and a slightly down December. And again, let's go to 2019. That was right here, okay? Which, oddly enough, bottoming against the 100-week moving average. Now, we had COVID here, and I wonder, would we ever see Bitcoin go under its 100-week moving average without the COVID crash? I don't know. I don't think so. I think we would have found some chop around the 50 and eventually went up. But, again, if we didn't get COVID, we wouldn't get QE either. And if we didn't get QE, I think this would have been the top and alt season right here, that the strength, it would have been more drawn out and delayed. So, again, I don't see any reason for there to be that much QE or similar loose monetary policy, but I could be wrong. Maybe all of a sudden, catalyst cracks in the market start to pop up for the housing market or other sectors. I don't know, but we'll address that when we get there. So that was the seasonality data. Also, let's just take a look at the RSI, one of our simplest classic indicators. Look at when the RSI has been oversold. Okay, here was 2020. Even in 2019, it wasn't this oversold, but it was this oversold in 2018, in mid 2022. Okay, yes, we had a bottom later, and just right now. So the last times Bitcoin was this oversold coincided with those local bottoms. And I'm not going to lie, I'm kind of happy this is happening because this was the biggest elephant in the room for this cycle, was this massive amount of bearish divergence. All right. We had bearish divergence a couple times last cycle too. And now we need to see the RSI flip. So watch that yellow line moving average and see what happens there. I'm actually curious, what does the monthly show? The monthly, that doesn't look so great either, being under there. So, do watch for the monthly. Maybe the monthly could go down even further. I'd watch it. You see how the 50 line tends to be close to where the bottom is, and this is still bottoming out on the monthly. But I'm actually happy this happened so Bitcoin market could reset itself. Again, it's possible we get a move down to 70K, the 200-week moving average. That would be an area I absolutely will not miss. But, keep an eye on it. I do think, though, it's possible, as I've been saying, that we could see a reversal here. Now, as far as charts overall, here's what my head and my heart tell me. All right, which it's usually more important to follow your head. Anytime I've seen Bitcoin do a big move down, maybe the daily's better to show this. Anytime I've seen Bitcoin do a big move down, or most of the time, and then we get a little bit of an upward channel, usually that ends up being, or we end up getting another negative flush. I'm sure we have, we can see this right here from that 2021 peak. We went down, kind of an upward channel, and then we died. Look at this, another upward channel, died, upward channel, died, upward channel, died. I get a little bit triggered by seeing upward channels. 2019, a little bit different. We went up, but then overall we were making sort of a macro descending channel. I do like my descending channels. Was there any sort of upward channel here? No, it just kind of fell off. But, that's just something to look out for. Even in the 2017 run up, when we were getting some of these large moves, if we started to form an upward channel, we would have a correction and then continue up. So, maybe that's what we're experiencing, something right here. We had a big upward move. We're getting a correction, upward channel. But, zooming in, my heart wants to see, I want to believe, man. And going back, tying this in with the liquidation heat map we talked about before, where all the shorts are at. This is the monthly. Let's go to the weekly. Yeah, you can see how Bitcoin is between all these shorts and longs. Look at that, man. 95K. That's the number to watch. But Bitcoin, it's coiling in this wedge, and it is going to make a decision soon as far as which way it's going. So right now it's coiling. We'll see if it has the strength to shoot up or if it's going to come down, and we just got to play it. Hopefully it shoots up and we see more positivity in the market sooner, but it is possible it doesn't. And again, having a strategy that makes you money despite of what the market does, that's what I endorse. I don't endorse trying to make predictions, because that's how you're going to get wrecked. My strategy, right? I talked about looking for a weekly buy signal. If we go under here, the first one we get, I have a lot of high confidence in that strategy. And if that happens, I'm playing the long game. I'm putting my money where my mouth is. But if it doesn't and we break up, we have to be ready for that too. Crypto Squid, I think alt season got pushed till next year. That's what I'm thinking too. Good comment, Crypto Squid. Again, taking a look at Bitcoin dominance here, just as far as what it did last time in 2019. Okay, we saw this negative trend, a little bit of a pump. And remember, all because Bitcoin dominance goes up doesn't mean that alts have to go up. It could just mean that alts are staying stationary or flat and Bitcoin's going up. So I do recommend just kind of screenshotting these or keeping these charts in the back of your mind. All because Bitcoin dominance is going up and Bitcoin's going up, it could mean that Bitcoin is moving up higher than what the collective alt market is doing. So do keep that in mind. These are just good charts to keep in the back of your mind. And, I think another thing to keep in perspective too is these rotations and alt seasons, they last about a month, okay? And this is just something I find this helps me. Maybe it'll help you. If you're a believer in the monetary policy argument and you're still a believer in alt season, I know it's hard to be. Just keep this in mind. We'll do this first. So you can plainly see, let's zoom way in here. You can plainly see that alt season lasts about a month, about 4 or 5 weeks, doesn't matter. Look at the amount of time. I'm going alt season to alt season. That is 1,253 days, right? I'm going to pull up my calculator here, make sure I give you the most accurate data. I'm just going to do 1,250 divided by 365. That's 3.4. So every 3.5, within 3.5 years, let me rephrase this. Within 3.5 years, we had 2 alt seasons that lasted a month. Okay, 3.5 years, that's 42 months. So 2 out of the 42 months, we had alt season. The point I'm trying to make here is that alt seasons are rare moments in time within the crypto cycles. Okay, so keeping that in mind and remembering we had an early alt season last cycle. Why did we get an early alt season? We know that. Massive amounts of money printing. That is why I'm of the mindset, as far as the monetary policy perspective, that we will get a later alt season. Like Crypto Squid is saying, maybe it's in 2026. And this even lines up with what a logarithmic regression is. Again, you don't have to agree with what the rainbow chart is showing you as far as predictions. I actually want to get into that. But first, let me just say, what is a log regression? A log regression shows that vertically on the y-axis, we have the log scale, factors of 10, and we have bigger volatility price swings earlier. But as we get further along the x-axis, which is time, we get decreased volatility, diminished returns. Now, something I wonder about more and more. This is a criticism and also but a constructive criticism on the rainbow chart. We can see where those tops are. And I think this was the original rainbow chart. This shows it really good. Okay, this is a good criticism to keep in mind. We see how the bottoms are lined up pretty well in this rainbow chart. How they flatten out along the x-axis more, but we see how the tops kind of get squished at an even further rate. Okay, now could that be happening again? This is a question I've asked myself. We have these tops here, and overall, this is good, but then from the last cycle top, I think this dark red bar should have been flattening out more. And even with that being said, even if we go down a couple bars, okay, set a dark red and orange, I'm even willing to go to the light orange. That would be very conservative. As far as the light orange box, you see that's like 160 to 200K. That lines up with a lot of macro indicators on where a top could be. All right, so just keep that in mind. I like how the log regression shows the stretching across the x-axis, the horizontal of Bitcoin. I think that lines up with monetary policy. I also think it lines up with just what we see as far as distance from the halving, as far as when these peaks could be. And this is mute. This is mute. We see that reflected right here, the average returns. It's mute, but I think that's a good thing. As far as anytime I've gotten an asset that I really like and believe in, when it accumulates for a while, it tends to have very big moves coming later. So I do think that's a good thing. And going over to Bitcoin, as far as what that could look like, I mean, right now I have on the Fibonacci extensions, and we can see, I have it from last cycle, high to low. Bitcoin ran into its former all-time high fib. We only had, this is why I use Fibonacci, by the way. We only had candle wicks instead of bodies, so we got rejected 3 times and then punched through. We got to the, I believe that's the 1618 at 102K. No candle bodies showing support. Got rejected to the 1236. Came up, and we're at the 1236 and the 100-week moving average again. Right? So we see that. But where's our next fib extension? Our next fib extension is at, remember where that light orange was, 150 to 200K, roughly speaking. There are other indicators, such as our log regression. Here we go. And our pi cycle indicator. Here we go. And so log regression, let's put this back on, shows where these Bitcoin cycle tops have been. Kind of the upper half of this red band. And again, it might flatten out over time. It might be closer to the lower end. I don't know. We'll see. But this whole upper band where we've had tops is between, again, those fibs, the 2618, 3618 of 150 to 200K. Where is the pi cycle? So we've had pi cycle trigger at the tops. It did not trigger here, by the way. It triggered earlier. And the pi cycle probably won't ever trigger again because, again, the nature of log regression, diminished returns. But even if you look at the pi cycle moving average, we tend to run into it. We ran into it in 2024, and it's coming down here. It's possible it just hangs out in the upper 100K area. So I think there's a lot of data to show. We know where a possible euphoric top will be. And I'm of the mindset, the argument that we are not going to get an alt season. I could be wrong on this, but I believe we're not going to get an alt season until Bitcoin is too expensive to keep buying. Again, alt season comes when Bitcoin is too expensive to keep buying and we get that money flow rotation into our large caps and alt caps. Speaking of which, let's get into that. Let's start going through our different crypto charts and just seeing what the data is showing as far as where those are. We'll throw on some other indicators. And if you have any comments, questions below, or crypto assets you'd like for me to take a look at, please comment below. There's some I'll go through anyway, some of the classic ones. We took a look at Bitcoin dominance. This is total 3. We've seen total 3 touch this 100-week moving average before. It's at the 786. Possible reversal of strength here. So again, even if Bitcoin dominance is going up, that would mean that Bitcoin would be moving up faster than altcoins. We could still see altcoins stay lateral, even if total 3 is to continue to find support here. Now, if this breaks support and we come back down to the 618 or the macro golden pocket, what is the macro golden pocket? You are asking, or I am saying, what's that called? Professors do this all the time. A rhetorical question. This macro golden pocket, this Fibonacci former high to low, 61865, right near the 200. If we did break, this would be an area to watch for. And again, a macro area I absolutely will not miss. So total 3, possibly getting a sign of reversal. But just remember, all because we see light red doesn't mean that that is the very bottom. We could see a lower bottom, and we do not have confirmation. You can see it takes time for the MACD to flip up. Ethereum, Bitcoin, again, this is possibly getting ready for a curling move up. You want to see when these cross positive, when the blue gets above the orange. That is a good sign. You already see Ethereum, Bitcoin thinking about it. But watch what happens at this 100 and the 0.25. That's where it stalled last time. This is our large cap indicator. And by the way, this indicator, you see it right there, total 3 ES minus others divided by Bitcoin. If you're like, what the heck does that mean? Total 3, that's Bitcoin and Ethereum, excluding stable coins. Okay, so we're talking about everything outside of Bitcoin and ETH, aside from the stable coins and aside from others. Others is the chart for the top 10 cryptos. So what this chart is showing is Cardano, Doge, Tron, Solana, Binance, XRP paired against Bitcoin. And right now that chart is showing some weakness. So if it comes down to this 8-year macro wedge, we have the 236 and the lower area here at 0.17. We'll see if that happens. Similarly, we looked at this last time. I said, you know what? Why not include total 2? That's the total market cap of everything, excluding Bitcoin. And then ES, excluding stable coins. All right. So we don't have Tether and all that. Minus others. Let's bracket that. So we combine it all for any math appreciators out there, divided by Bitcoin. This one kind of similar, but it's flirting with that 100. MACD's possibly getting ready to curl up. So yeah, something to keep in mind, even if we put on a fib, and I know it's going to be very weak on the Fibonacci, that I would say, look at this, the 382. This doesn't lie. The 382 was support. We got underneath it. And by the way, anytime you're under the 382, you can always put in new lows, technically speaking. But the 382 and the 200 week, that's close together. So breaking out of the wedge and the 100 would be good. And again, this is for our top altcoins. But if we get above that 200, I think it's go time. I think it's go time. That's when it was go time last cycle. And look at this. This was 2020 after Kiwi came back. We had to challenge this a couple times. And then boom, once we're above the 200, time to start getting excited. So that's our line in the sand there. Others divided by Bitcoin. We do have overall macro uptrends. Right now it's a little bit undecided whether or not to go lower, but that 100 or not 100, sorry, the 50-week moving average, that is showing good resistance there. So no answers on that yet. As far as the Tether dominance, all right, 6.15% of all money in crypto is in Tether. If you don't know what Tether is, Tether in USDC always has a value of $1. So if people are risk off, they rather retain their Satoshi values and they say, you know what, Bitcoin's probably going to drop. My crypto's going to drop. I'll just be in Tether and keep my purchasing power. And when Tether is going up, we are risk off. And when it's going down and we see the MACD possibly getting ready to flip down, that's when we are risk on. So right here we see an overall uptrend. We need to see this reverse to the downside. And if you don't believe me that this is inversely correlated with Bitcoin, we can just take a look at this right here. Okay, we can see that when Tether's dominance down, Bitcoin's up. Tether down, Bitcoin up. Tether down, Bitcoin up, and inverse. So just keep that in mind. And this is another charter indicator I like. This is another good macro sign of, when are we getting an alt season? We had alt seasons when this chart, Ethereum, the ratio, networks, blah, 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 we don't care. When this is way down here. And we are not there yet, okay? Actually, we have a ways to go. But this can drop off a cliff very fast. One of those charts to just keep an eye on as far as Ethereum's concerned. We could see a little bit of positivity. Nasty wick up here. A lot of sell pressure at the 786, the 50, the 20 moving average up there. 1 second, got a notification on my phone that I just need to check real quick. So we see, all right, sorry, got a funny text. We see a lot of sell pressure there. We did just have the MACD up. The daily, kind of like Bitcoin, upward channels. This is what my heart wants to believe we go higher. My brain's like, I hate upward channels when we drop. I mean, you can see it right here. When we go up after a drop and it's an upward channel, I get nervous. So, keep that in mind. That we could still test for Ethereum. I would not be shocked to see Ethereum form really strong support around this 2,500 level. That's what we got for as far as the major indicators. Don't see any comments about any other crypto requests, so I'm just going to fly through some of these. Link, we talked about the head and shoulder effect for Link and how that's played out before. If Link turns bearish, it might get down back under its $2,368 level. I like Link as a potential, top altcoin. It even has AI potential too. Link is an altcoin that I believe in. I'm not trying to shill it to you. Do your own research. But this is one I like to watch, and if it ever got down here, I would accumulate more. As I've already accumulated, just by the way, here and here and here and here. So if it goes down, I'm losing money with all you guys, and I'm just another person on YouTube. So, don't do what I do. So far, this strategy is, it's not showing the net positivity yet. But again, as far as alt season's concerned, going back to the alt season thing, the number one trick for alt season is to pick the right altcoin. You can throw some of the TA out the window. If you pick the right altcoin, it does not matter if you buy here, whatever. You pick the right altcoin, they'll run. So I look at altcoins through the lens of risk and potential. Link is one of those that I personally believe has a low to medium risk and a medium to high potential. That's how I view Link. I know we have some AVAX fans, and so let's take a look at any of the cryptos I've commonly seen you guys talking about. I'm just going to do a quick TA on. We have lower end of the channel. Let's throw on our MACD as well. MACD may be getting ready to flip positive. I'd wait for some more confirmation, positive cross. But if you like that descending channel, hey, you're at some value there. But AVAX could still die even more. SWI or SWI, whatever you want to call it. This thing had its measured move from this wedge. I'm not going to draw it out. So possible bottom here, but it's been an overall this upward channel. It breaks that. That is no bueno. You've probably seen Sweet come back down to 85 cents. So you're hoping for support to hang here. Doge, I know a few of you like your Doge analysis. So here you go. Doge kind of breaking down negatively. I could see Doge coming back down to 9.5 cents. It has to hold here. It's under the 200. That's not good. We do see some positivity coming back on the MACD. I don't love it overall. To me, I could still see Doge coming down here. If you love Doge, that's an area to watch for. But I've said this many times. As far as the altcoins this cycle in the top 10, the top 20, Doge is enemy number one as far as cryptos where I could see really struggling. Remember, this is a meme coin, and it's an inflationary meme coin. They can make more Doge, so that is not good overall. It's like stock dilution, if you will. So do be careful with Doge. I know there's some Doge fans, and I hope it does well for you. But also, bear in mind, XRP last cycle, high to low Fib-wise, it stalled at the 786. Bitcoin Cash stalled at its 786. So some of these older altcoins, they're not always guaranteed to get back to their all-time highs or make new all-time highs. Sometimes they just get a massive relief somewhere between the 618, 786. So, we talked about it back here, and not a bad area to consider taking at least some profits on your initial investment. Let's go to Wolf. This is one of our Bitcoin mining stocks. There's a few Wolf fans here. Still challenging that 786. Bitcoin mining stocks today haven't looked the greatest. We see some of the negativity there. TeraWolf down, 5-6%. Zoom in on the daily. We can see, Doji here. But, the suspect thing for me is Bitcoin mining stocks are holding up overall better than Bitcoin. And that to me is strange because, we've talked about this before. Bitcoin and mining stocks are very correlated. They've been very correlated in the past. Now, do some research because some of these mining stocks, such as Cypher and Iron, they are getting in the AI play. Some of them are doing AI data center stuff, so they're more than just mining stocks, so AI is attached to them. But you see how Bitcoin and mining stocks have been very attached before. And so, Mara is one of those that's been, high correlation. And one, at a very low value, by the way, lower area of the channel. I like the research on Mara, not one of my better calls macro-wise overall. That's okay. I picked up some Mara here. Hopefully, eventually we get positivity back. But this is one I've done the research and not one of my better plays compared to Cypher and Iron. I made a lot more money on Cypher and Iron and Wolf, but Iron, it really testing that 236 pullback, the 100 support. This is a little concerning for Iron. If Iron breaks down here, possibly get ready for a drop to 27. So just saying, these fibs, you see where the values are really spread apart. If you weren't taking any profits here, we talked about the 50 moving average possibly being an area to take some profits. You're not always guaranteed to get back up. Do watch out. This thing ran really hot. It really got extended in its bubble. So yeah, do your charting, all the things, and see, is it worth maybe taking some profits? If you were buying Iron at $5, you still have an 8x, something to consider. Just looking at the comments, before I go, any other requests for any altcoins or crypto analysis, I'll give you my 2 cents, and we'll we'll go from there. Beat Munsky. Man, who did you piss off at YouTube? This channel should have way over. I appreciate that, Beats Munksy. I don't think I pissed anyone off. As far as what I do for this channel, first and foremost, it's going to sound selfish. I don't mean it to be. It's not the goal to be selfish. But at first, I made this channel for myself to learn from my strategies, mistakes, and to also learn from you guys. There were too many crypto channels out there saying nonsense, saying XRP is going to $10,000. By the way, just Google that. It'll make you laugh, piss you off. I don't know what. You'll see people believe XRP is going to 10K. I like XRP, but there's these people detached from realism, or as I like to believe, there's a lot of crypto people out there. They want you to buy their bags, and they're trying to use their viewers to become bag holders, and they don't really believe these outrageous predictions they're making. So I try to be a realist, kind of conservative minded, and just go through the data. And I'm learning from you guys. I happily do this just for the community, even though we have a small community, sub 2,000 or under 2,000 subs. I am okay with that. I make from the ad revenue like $100 every 3 to 4 months. So when that happens, I take the lady out for a nice dinner. But aside from that, guys, like I appreciate everything. And I would hope, even if I do get 50K subs or whatever, if that ever happens, I would hope I bring you the same effort and quality, or even better quality as we get bigger. So I am nothing but appreciative, grateful, and thankful for all of you. And I've been doing this since 100 subs, and to me, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. My job outside of this, this is a fun thing I do on the side to multiply and grow the money that I make from my job, to let my money work for me. So I enjoy this, and my goal is to bring content that is realistic, and have some of those tough, harder conversations. So yeah, all good, Beats Monkey. Keep it up. I've been following for a while, and I appreciate the content. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. So before I go, it doesn't look like I'm getting any other requests for any technical analysis, so might let you guys go sooner. Got some nice weather, so maybe go for a little walk here or something here shortly. Trying to think, are there any other crypto assets you guys love to ask about? Oh, I can't forget. I know I have a Tesla. There's one of the subscribers loves asking about Tesla. And I said today in the stock video, Tesla, compared to the other Mag 7 stocks, Tesla is the hardest to track as far as technical analysis, in my opinion. It's more of a trader's, and it's always in the top 3 almost every single day as far as being traded, calls and shorts and all that. So, it has these very big violent swings. So yeah, I'm more of a trade investor, long-term investor, but taking a look at Tesla right here, it's got to get above these former highs. It could come back down to some decent support here at 410. But if not, this one, I still think there's macro potential to the 600 range. But yeah, I know our Tesla fan out there will appreciate anything I say in that. Beats Monkey, I want to say Monkey, XCN. I need to remind myself. I know I've seen XCN, but it's escaping me right now. XCN. Oh my, this one's been out a while, hasn't it? Onyx coin. I swear this one's been an older coin. 1 second. I'm curious. Is there a different? No, I think it's yours. I remember this being around last cycle, if I'm not mistaken. XCN, and we'll end on that note. We'll talk about XCN and go. Yeah, Onyx. I believe this has been around for a while. All right. So yeah, man, this right here sucks. Let's measure that out. As far as that initial drop, 99.34%. The fact he even got in this one is amazing. Where was this top? July of 22. Yep, end of last cycle. Yeah, you got it. So you can see overall, I mean, here's the daily moving average. What's the weekly show? So the weekly, formerly it showed that the 20, man, 20 was just brutal. Sorry, I'm admiring how this chart ever recovered because I've seen way too many altcoins do this and then never recover. So the fact it did, I'm like, okay, what's going on with this guy? So there we have the moving averages. 100 was showing support. Look at that nice move. So if you bought anywhere from down here, what was it at? A tenth of a penny, and it ran up. I mean, something to consider. This move was early this year, late last year. Anytime you get an altcoin running up in the thousands of percents, I am very skeptical about those. And right now, it's looking for structure. It's probably got a fib somewhere. There's a couple ways you can draw your fibs. You can go from the current high and just retrace back lower and see, is there something? I'm going to that former high there before, or from here. That's maybe something. I don't love that overall as far as fib retracements go. What I do want to do is go from this low right here and see. And yeah, there you can see right there. I like this one a lot. It's getting that classic 618 pullback, and my fib's probably not perfect, so it's a little bit off. But you see how it honored the moving. I like when charts honor the moving average and the fib. Ran into resistance here 3 times off 236. It's never good. Got under the moving averages and have just died. Shot right through that 0.5. And now we're looking for support in here. That's where we've had former highs. And it looks like, here's a doji. That's kind of where it's dying out. If we go and add on our stochastic, I mean, I would be looking for, this is very bottomed out, no question. I'd be looking at when it gets into the shaded area again. So nothing there. Let's take a look under a couple different indicators as well. As far as I do want to do the RSI and what's going on. There we go. MACD updated. Yay. As far as the MACD is on the weekly, that's tough to watch. The RSI, I think this is worth paying attention to. See what happens. The RSI is bottomed out. See what happens when it can break above this yellow line, the moving average on the weekly. What does the daily show? The daily showing a little bit of a reversal here. So very bottomed out. It is above that moving average. So it's getting a bit of relief. And maybe this is showing us something. I like to see sort of double bottoms or like a bullish divergence. So if it gets rejected by this 0.5, comes down again, and we get a lower price but a higher base strength, I think then that'll be showing us good structure, at least with the RSI. As far as the MACD goes, yeah, I mean, this is still kind of, we're forming higher bases here on the MACD. Kind of stalled out around the zero line before. So, maybe this is showing us something. It all depends. I'll always go back to, picking the right altcoin's the hardest thing to do. I think this chart, I would be patient and wait for better structure here or better structure from the altcoin market. But the fact that it already ran up, as much as it did, any coin that runs up in the thousands of percents, once it starts dying like this, I am very patient for structure. It's already at 90%. It might be a little bit more. 90. Could it get down as far as here? I'd be eyeing between this level as far as being patient. So good luck on that. It just got listed on Robinhood. That's not always a good thing. Something else just got listed on Robinhood. I remember this is the first video I ever did that really pissed people off. Maybe back to your comment, maybe someone at YouTube was an aerodrome holder. And I said, watch out for this one because it was already running up. And I said, I don't like when coins are running up like this as far as buying at its all-time highs. That makes me nervous. And yes, it went higher, but now we see this massive descending channel, and it's losing its 382. Let's go to the weekly. It's kind of losing its 382. Could it start to come back up and show a reversal trend? Maybe. Aerodrome is one I like. I like the altcoin. This, now, every altcoin, they say all the good things about it, like, oh, this altcoin's so great. It's hard to find good feedback on these altcoins. This is one, as far as research, I actually like it. But I was bearish on it at the moment, or not bearish, but just saying, you know what, I'm not going to buy something that's already pumped a crazy amount. And I think that's just foolish. Like if something's already pumped 800%, I'm not going to ape in at the top and say, you know what, yay. Like, then where do you know the top is? And I think you're just FOMOing at that point and you're asking to get wrecked. So, yeah, I don't believe that's being a good, disciplined trade vestor, even for crypto. But overall, I mean, it's funny enough, it's kind of lower than the price where I was skeptical about it. But I do like this altcoin. I do like things I've seen about this altcoin. But yeah, a lot of people were really pissed off at me about Aerodrome or saying XRP was not going to go to 10K. That annoyed a lot of people. But you know what? I don't care. That's fine. You're welcome to disagree. But yeah, XRP is not going to 10K. All right. So, Beat Monkey, thank you for being here. I'm going to let you guys go. Fun live stream today. Let me know what you think if you're watching this in replay. As far as, you know, again, I'm just chewing on all this. As far as the divergence of inflationary monetary policy and 4-year cycle, all right? I'm going to keep stating, you guys know where I'm at. I think inflationary monetary policy is going to give us a later alt season than typical. And again, last cycle, alt seasons don't have to coincide with the 4-year tops. Okay, we've had 4-year tops without alt season. We got one earlier last time. We had a 1-to-1 correlation in 2017. I think, you know, 1-to-1 correlation earlier. Why not later? Why not 2026? That would fit in nicely with the bubble theory as far as, you know, this bubble having further to go, which I do believe. Thank you guys so much for watching. Have a wonderful Friday. Take care.